Hey, Randy Sullivan here, Florida Baseball Army, and I just want to tell you how excited I am to share with you the secrets behind the success of all our players. We've helped over 375 players learn to pitch at 90 miles an hour plus off the mound. We've seen our guys that train with us at least 8 times sign over $18 million in signing bonuses in the last 4 Major League Baseball drafts, millions of dollars in college scholarships, and lots of big leaguers with multiple contracts that are featured on MLB just about every night of the week. And so I just want to share with you how we go about doing that and some of the details of it. And it starts with the magic really happens right here at the bottom of the slide where it says training movement and not mechanics, okay? SAVAGE is an acronym and it stands for Specific Adaptation Through Variability and Goal-Directed Experiences. And I'm going to start with specific and adaptation. From the time our players go to their first T-ball practice to when they go to their first training session, we've always been trying to elicit an adaptation. That is, we want to draw out a change in their bodies. Unfortunately, the change we got was not always specific to the performance outcome that we needed. For example, we wanted guys that were strong enough to throw baseballs hard, and so we went into the gym and we pushed and we pulled and we upped and we down metal bars. And what we got was a bunch of guys that were really good at picking up heavy stuff off the ground, and they looked good in their swimsuits. But it didn't necessarily transfer over to the planes of motion they had to move in to be able to throw a baseball hard. Now, I'm going to jump down to the G for goal-directed. Our bodies organize themselves differently for activities that have a clear goal as opposed to activities that are sort of vague in their intention. If I say I'm going to take my hand and put it on that paper or that ladder there or whatever, it's different than saying I'm going to take my finger and put it on the center of that target, because I have to coordinate that movement all the way through. And everything we do in a baseball game has a coordinative demand, and so we need to train accordingly. And we've told our players this. We've said, if you never want to lose your command, don't ever throw a baseball that's not directed at a clear target. Hit your partner in the head, hit him in the shoulder, hit him in the hip, but don't ever just throw it out there, because that's different than throwing it to a spot. And if we throw it to a spot enough, then when we get in the game, that pattern will emerge and we'll throw the ball to the backstop and lose the game. Now, we take that concept of having a clear goal and infuse it into every facet of their training. Their goal could be as simple as clear this hurdle on a warm-up exercise, walk in a straight line on a waiter walk, take these dumbbells and touch targets with them instead of just lifting them, so that we get what we call the integration of strength and coordination, so that we get strength that really helps us throw baseballs well. Now, I'm going to go down to the E for experiences, and that's probably the most important one. When we first started in this business, having been a physical therapist for so many years was really helpful. The ability to see through skin and visualize what movements are happening with the muscles and the other inert tissues. We were really able to raise a red flag and realize that the way the experts were saying we should move wasn't going to work in the long term anatomically. And so that was pretty valuable, having all that experience with anatomy. But the thing that has helped us emerge as world leaders in this training training profession, I should say, has been a deep dive after physical therapy school into the science known as motor learning and skill acquisition. That is, how do people learn to move? And it turns out that how you learn is probably more important than what you learn. And what we know is that the learning we have, it must occur subconsciously. See, for years, players have been told that they need to repeat their movement. But the truth is, it's impossible to repeat a move. You can't even make a single joint move the same way 2 times in a row, let alone coordinate the ankles, knees, hips, torso, shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand, and all the muscles involved to coordinate that activity, to be able to repeat it exactly the same way every time. So instead of being a world-class repeaters of movement, our athletes really need to be world-class adjusters. And we know those adjustments have to happen subconsciously, because we can measure how long it takes for an impulse to go from the brain and back up to and down to the muscles and back up to the brain again. And there's simply not enough time in the amount of time it takes to make a throw for any of that information to exchange hands by way of conscious thought. And so what we have to do is teach our athletes in a way that doesn't demand that they think. And we call that implicit learning. And the research tells us that 3 really cool things happen. Number 1, we learn faster and it sticks better because the words don't get in the way. Number 2, it transfers to the game better because in the game we don't have time to think. And number 3, several studies in motor learning science have shown that when you acquire a skill implicitly, it withstands psychological pressure better than when we learn it the other way. And so in SAVAGE training, what we understand is the only thing that can influence the way you move when you're under time pressure is the sensory information you gather as you move. That is what you see, what you feel, what you hear, what your balance organ tells you, and what your awareness of your body parts known as proprioception, which is actually an anticipation of the forces your muscles are going to have to deal with. And so in Savage training, instead of telling you how to move, what we're going to do is immerse you in the sensory experience, and we're going to masterfully manipulate the sensory information and let that encourage your body to self-organize more efficient movement patterns. Now I'm going to go to the V. The variability, we use these terms almost interchangeably. Variability, unpredictable, and perturbations. When the body's exposed to unpredictable load, it does something that's known as co-contraction, which removes muscle slack and makes those adjustments more readily available to us and makes us able to make those adjustments more rapidly. And so by using a lot of unpredictable loads and variability in our training, instead of weight as the primary load, what we get is a more specific adaptation that helps us make our adjustments more quickly. I would have actually preferred to use the term unpredictable in the acronym, but then, it would have looked like sausage training and no one is ever going to sign up for that. And so we had to go with the V for variability, okay? Now, baseball's made this mad rush to science to try to solve the issue of throwing, but the problem is the scientific method crumbles in the face of complexity. Complex systems like the weather, an ecological system like a frog pond, an economy, or our players' bodies, which are complex because at any given moment in time, the state and behavior of every cell in their body is influenced by, if not determined by, the state and behavior of the cell around it, and so on and so on and so on. And if we change one thing, everything changes almost unpredictably. If we drop one eyedropper of acid into a frog pond, the entire ecology changes. If we change one thing in the athlete, everything changes almost unpredictably. And that change could be as simple as go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow. Our athletes are different every single second of every single day. And so when you try to solve this thing with a scientific method, which looks for linear relationships, cause and effect and correlation. I threw weighted balls, I threw harder, I did long toss, I got hurt, I did this, if this, then that. That's a slippery slope with a loose foothold, and it fails in the face of complexity in things like the weather, economies, ecological systems, and our bodies. So what do we do when we have all that chaos? Well, we don't just surrender. The weatherman doesn't just go, well, I don't know, it's a lot going on out there and I just don't know what's going to happen because the wind blows one way and the humidity does this. You know what? He asks himself, what are the characteristics of this system that need to be stable for us to be able to predict what's going to happen? For example, if he has a stable barometric pressure, temperature, wind speed and direction, and humidity, he can make a pretty good prediction about what the weather is going to do. Those things are called attractors, and they're the characteristics of the system that must be stable. And then there are things like pollen count and dew point that don't matter to the stability of the whole system. We call those things fluctuations. And when we view the athlete's movement through this lens, now we can lock in on the fundamental universal movement principles, the attractors, the movement, and not the individual performance indicators or the fluctuations or the mechanics. And this is really the secret that has allowed us to teach in a way that allows our students to learn implicitly and learn to make these subtle adjustments really rapidly so that their movement becomes powerful, stable, efficient, safe, and really super productive. And I just can't wait to share it with you. I've just completed a new book, almost 70,000 words, called Savage Revolution: Overthrow the Status Quo in Baseball, in baseball pitcher development. And it's really exciting. I'm so excited to share it with you. And hopefully you'll stay tuned and I'll be able to tell you more about it. And it'll be released here. It's at final edit with the publishers right now. And it should be coming out in the near future, next few months or weeks. And I'm really excited to share it with you. Can't wait. In the meantime, give us a call if you'd like to learn more about it. We can come down for one of our weekend Savage throwing training camps, or come down for a one-on-one precision strike, or you can always join us for this incredible summer training program, Savage Summer, that we have going on right now, where guys are just getting better every single day. We have the guys break multiple records on the mound and really do well with command and secondary stuff, and also pitch shaping. It's been incredible to watch the gains that these guys have made in just a few short weeks. And we still have 7 weeks left to go in the summer. So give us a call, 866-787-4533, or shoot us an email at Randy or Amy at FloridaBaseballArmory.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you and customize a plan that'll work just for you. Thanks a lot.